Hello, and today I'd like to start with my poetry pitch by playing a little game here. So let's do a little spot the difference. So on the left or the right, there will be a poetry and a song, and I want you to spot the difference. So I'll give you some time to think. Alright, so based on your logic, which one do you think is the poetry and which one's the song? The one on the left? Well, I hate to break it to you, but this one is actually a poem called First Encounter by Leroy R. Quintana while he was serving in Vietnam, while the one on the right is the subject in question, the song Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival, or for the sake of this presentation, CCR. And it's in my opinion that a well-written song is basically poetry just with background music. So before we delve into that, we must first understand what we're dealing with here. So to begin, this is a song released in 1969 in CCR's album Willie and the Poor Boys alongside Down on the Corner, and it was a huge hit. And it originated when the songwriter and singer of CCR, John Fogerty, just noticed that there's just an odd discrepancy that the 35th president and the 37th president's granddaughter and grandson married, almost like they weren't going to have to deal with the problem themselves because of how upper class they were. That problem being the Vietnam War. And he also has traces of the Vietnam War conflict within the drafting lottery, which, for those who don't know, is basically where they get men between 18 to 26, get their birthday on a ball, put it in a machine that spins them up, and then they pick the ball, and that's the one who gets drafted. So men were forcefully doing that. It's like the lottery, but like in real life. And next slide. So, although, just to keep this interesting, it has the DNA of like a poem, but we need to go more in depth. Like, why is it a poem? Well, I believe it's a poem because it utilizes strong poetic language that's just powerful and overcoming. And it also has like a theme. It's frames like it's enlightening. Like when people listen to this, they were like just floored by it. And I'd first like to get into this first argument that it's powerful, that it just consumes people. So, William Wordsworth, who was a poet in the 18th century around the Romantic era, 19th century, said that it was just, poetry itself is just just spontaneous, powerful emotions coming over the reader. So this is seen throughout the song as it discusses like two Americas. One where they want to fight for freedom, and another one where they want to they fight for the freedom. So we have the upper class who are always complaining about freedom and just wanting it, and then the lower class who are the ones being used and exploited by that upper class to get that said freedom. And throughout the song, you can just really feel this. And especially in this line right here where it says, I know fortunate one, saying that it's a matter of fortune and that it's only inheritance gives you freedom rather than like the idea of it. And then they send you down to war was the common stigma that many people thought of, like that they were indiscriminately being sent to die, basically, across the world. So then I'd also like to get into my second point on why it is that it's just enlightening. Like Dylan Thomas says that it's enlightening. So it basically shows the reality and the expectations of what patriots had, and really that just reveals something throughout it, especially throughout its tone. And if it's so special, then why should it be canon? Well, I believe it should be canon because it's a time capsule for the period and it's central to the identity of it. So as Thako said, that it's representative of that society and it's also a snapshot into that time, Fortunate Son acts perfectly within this medium because it was used as a protest, like an anti-Vietnam War protest anthem. It was also in like perfect 60s fashion, not a digital noise and sound. It's just raw, authentic country rock that really just projected these ideas. So it's also central to the identity because it's actually the most commonly used war song to represent Vietnam, and again as the anthem, and it's had hundreds, if not thousands, of covers by bands all across the world to really display an anti-patriotic theme, and also it's used through documentaries. And even today, I heard my dad, he's like, oh yeah, here, and he showed me a cover of the song by his favorite band, Rise Against, who were doing said Fortunate Son cover. And concluding thoughts, Fortunate Son should not only be considered canon, or poetry, but it also should be considered canon because of its significant impact. And that's my poetry claim.